You mean there is no civilian in support of government in the streets?
First of all, I'm Cuban. I have the right to speak up for my people.
Is the government of Cuba a dictatorship? It's a total false accusation.
If he's telling me that I'm lying,
I do not call a lawyer.
So they use the money for their own, you mean, not the people?
Cuban people are satisfied.
because they don't like the government and they go to jail. They disappear. They die.
How many people have been killed?
Pero que ahora, en la actualidad,
What they want is not our freedom.
Obama said, if you fix all these things, we are going to lift the embargo. Why does the Cuban government doesn't allow this? Why do we have only one party? Why do we have the government?
Government should be collapsed.
Hello everyone on board. Thank you for joining this invitation online, which is going to talk about the ongoing events in the streets of Havana and other streets of Cuba. We have here on board with us Mr. Shahrabi, a peace activist, an Iranian peace activist, Moises, who is from Colombia. He's originally from Venezuela, if I'm not wrong, but currently living in Colombia. Is that okay? Is that true, Moises?
yes, I'm living in Bogota, Colombia, but I'm Venezuelan.
Yeah, and we have Elizabeth, who is originally from Cuba, currently in Canada, if I'm not wrong. Am I correct, Elizabeth?
Yes.
And Hussein and me, we both are the co-hosts of this program, this YouTube program known as Counterclockwise. Thank you all for joining this talk.
CCW stands for
Justice Against the Tyranny,
Like,
the Oppressed,
Follow,
the Truth,
Subscribe,
the Justice.
and stay tuned with this struggle.
CCW stands for Counterclockwise.
Let's go to the topic. Some believe that the events that took place in these days were unique and we had not observed those unrests in the streets of Cuba, in the streets of the different cities of Cuba since the very beginning of the revolution in Cuba. What's your stand on that, Mr. Shahrabi? And tell us, how do you look to the events in Cuba?
Well, I would be very brief. First of all, I do not believe that although this is compared to similar events in the past, the size might be considerable, but this is not the first time that we are witnessing events like this in Cuba. Events that represent certain demonstrations, as they call it, against the government. This is what it is, but we will get to it. The content of it, the pretext, the background will be discussed. If you want, I can start telling my view on about what is happening.
Go to the point, Mr. Shahrabi, and we'll shift to the other guests.
Very shortly, the way I look at it, and which is I really believe it's based on facts. It is, first of all, many people throughout the world, they talk about the unsatisfaction of the Cuban people being reflected in these demonstrations.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be clear. Cuban people are satisfied. How many of them? The great majority of them. I would call 11,700,000 people, which is the total population of Cuba, are not happy and pleased with what has happened to their life in regard to being deprived from presenting their resources to the world market, get what they need to their country, being suffered by the 60 years of sanctions, severe sanctions, as they themselves, those responsible for the sanctions, those who oppose the sanctions, they themselves call it the harshest sanctions ever imposed on these people. And what do you expect from a people being under sanction, from a people who have hardship to commute to their workplace, who have hardship to get enough and adequate calories and food for their survival, to get enough and adequate medicine to secure their health. So this is what it is. They are satisfied. But the point is that the unsatisfied people of Cuba, they know the source of this dissatisfaction. They know correctly that the United States of America is the responsible force behind this hardship.
So
In
you
other
mean
words,
that the people in Cuba are not satisfied, but they are not satisfied, and the source of this unsatisfaction is the United States of America's policies. What's your take on that, Elizabeth? What do you believe? Elizabeth, it's up to you. I mean, you start.
Okay, first of all, I'm Cuban, so I would like to say that out of all of us here, I have the right to speak up for my people. I lived there for 23 years. I was born under something that it was called the special period, where there was no food, shortages, and the same thing over and over that has been going on for 62 years. First of all, I would like to clarify that what is happening now, the crisis that is happening at this very minute, is that Cubans are killing other Cubans, that the president, the so-called president, called upon their own people to attack and killed unarmed, peaceful protesters. So who is killing people at this minute for the last 3 days is the Cuban government. And we hold them accountable because they are the ones that has put this hardship upon their people. Do you know that the embargo does not include food? In the year 2000, the US allows the Cuban government to buy food and medicine. They sell doctors all over the world. They sell arms. They sell army to Latin America, and they have money because Venezuela paid them, because Colombia paid them, because many other countries in Latin America pay them money. Brazil pays them money and pays money to their doctors. But this government does not use the money to support and to improve the economic things in Cuba. They don't allow people to sell their goods and to properly negotiate their prices and do things. So what is happening has nothing to do with the embargo. The embargo, it's not good. I am not in favor of the embargo. So I'm clarifying this right now. The embargo, it is not good for the people of Cuba. But the embargo is there because we have no freedom, because we have no respect of human rights, because it is a dictatorship. That is why the embargo is there, because we cannot elect our own president. So the day that we have democracy and the day that we can do things that respect the human rights, the embargo will be lifted. And Obama said, if you fix all these things, we are going to lift the embargo. Why does the Cuban government doesn't allow this? Why do we have only one party? Why do we have the government only allowing one party, the Communist Party? So this is not the embargo. And I'm tired of people blaming the embargo on what it is, a dictatorship.
Okay,
so let's get our facts
Elizabeth.
together.
Yeah, Elizabeth, let's make it clear that everyone and every each of us here is representing his own ideas. Let's talk about from our own side.
I understand that.
Okay,
I understand,
Hussein,
and I'm really sorry, but people are being killed at this
That's
very
okay,
moment.
that's okay. I mean, let's talk from our own side. Hussein, it's up to you.
She's saying that, I mean, the many problems that Cuba has, mostly the economic problems, are because of the dictatorship of the government, or what is, I mean, so-called government, or anything else. Is it right? Am I getting it right? Can you briefly give us a brief description of what is the relation between the dictatorship and the economic situation? Because if, I don't know, it's not democratic, I know. It's not beautiful, I know. I mean, I'm not supporting the dictatorship, of course, but I just want to know what is the relationship between the dictatorship and the economic situation. Why a government?
Because they own everything. The government owns everything.
Such a cruel thing to his people. I cannot understand that. I mean, I'm just curious.
No one understands. No one understands.
Let us go in turn. Let us go in turns. I have to.
Okay, Mr. Sharabi, let them complete. Okay, Hussein, you want to continue? You want to keep questioning Elizabeth?
Oh no, that was my question.
So I was saying that the government owns everything. And once the government does not allow people to negotiate and do things on their own, there is no private sector. So people are not able to prosper. The government owns absolutely everything.
Okay, Moises, let's have your stand on these discussions.
Yeah, hello to everyone. I'm Moses. I apologize for my English, but I will my best. I'm agree with Elizabeth. the situation in Cuba right now is far from the bloqueo or
Embargo.
It is not a situation make for the United States. It's Cuba is live for 60 years a dictatorship who keep or who take the sugar harvest, for example, from the farmers. They take the liberties, political, economical, commercial liberties, and erase it. I think the situation is without precedent because is the young people who were born in dictatorship came out to the street and pedir, exigir.
I can help you. I can help you.
Sí, por favor, Elizabeth. I will pedir a Elizabeth que traduzca lo que quiero decir para que se entienda mejor.
He wants me to translate what he's saying so people can
Okay,
understand better.
go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yo creo que la situación no tiene que ver en la actualidad con el embargo.
So I believe that things have nothing to do with the embargo, the actual situation.
La dictadura de Cuba tiene más de 60 años en el poder y ha tomado todas las libertades de la sociedad cubana.
The dictatorship in Cuba, it has been there for more than 62 years and has taken every liberty from the society of Cuba, from the Cuban society.
Toman las cosechas de los granjeros y también prohíben el derecho a los sindicatos.
They take all the harvest from the farmers and they don't allow it's other parties to be involved, like to have other parties in the country. There is no pluriparty.
Cuba dice que tiene 5 vacunas y las promociona en el mundo, pero no puede proporcionarle estas vacunas a su propia población.
Cuba says that it has 5 vaccines, but they cannot give these vaccines to their own people. I'll tell you then about that.
Okay. Let's hold on here because I want to keep this discussion going on to the other side. Mr. Sharabi, as you heard from Moises and Elizabeth, they believe that the situation currently is not related to the sanctions, but it is related to the domestic policies of the government and the ruling party over there. So what do you stand over there? Don't you believe, is all this embargo that everyone is aware about that without any effect on the condition of the condition and the ongoing life of the people in Cuba?
Well, let's start with what we agree on, then go on to disagreement. What we agree on is what Elizabeth said clearly, explicitly, that embargo is not good. It's not something to be approved. That's one first point. Okay.
Indeed.
This is what we agree, all agree. But the point is, there are a couple of questions. Is the embargo the source of the events in Cuba? This is one question.
Yeah.
Which is, instead
Sorry,
of
what's the question again?
Is the embargo the source of the condition? This is the first question.
As our colleague, as our friend in Colombia said, he says he doesn't believe that embargo is the source of dissatisfaction of the people. It's something else. It's the dictatorship. Let me address these questions. In regard to if the embargo is the source or is not, it's not going to help what I say, you say, Elizabeth says, or someone else says. What is important is the facts, is what the United States government, they themselves say about this. I have documents that I would like to present, documents, undisputable documents, that the officials of the United States government on the year 1960 something, they have said that the only way to overthrow the government of Cuba is to bring economic pressure upon the people of Cuba to increase the sanctions, to make the embargo more severe in order to bring dissatisfaction among the people. What are you talking about? When you deprive a people to sell their goods in the international market, this deprives you from the material needs that you need, from the materials that you need for your survival. This undoubtedly brings unsatisfaction. Our friends they talk about dictatorship. Okay, and our friend Hossein says that I don't care about dictatorship, or I did not. Nobody approves dictatorship. But is the government of Cuba a dictatorship? It's a total false accusation. What are the criteria for a dictatorship? The criteria for the dictatorship is to suppress the working class within the country, is to suppress artists, the intellectuals, the students, everyone else, to not let them speak for their rights. This is not the situation in Cuba. The degree of mass mobilization, the right to organization, the right of freedom of speech, Cuba, despite all distortions, about all misinformation and disinformation, is the symbol of democracy. What is democracy?
Okay,
Is the
okay, Mr. Sharabi. Elizabeth,
to govern themselves. This is what it is. And allow me to say something. Our friend Elizabeth says that since I'm Cuban, let me be the source of what is true about Cuba. No, my friend. No, my friend. In Iran, let me tell you, we have Iranians like you who have sided with the United States government against our own people. We have Iranian people who do not take a stand. Not only they do not take a stand against embargo on Iran, they support embargo on Iran. How could be a Cuban and
let me ask a question from
the
Hussein.
United States government on the question of putting economic pressure and all these pressures on the Cuban people?
Let me give the mic to Hussein. Hussein, you are also from Iran, and you have also been facing the sanctions and an embargo from the United States of America as an Iranian who is living there. And tell me, how do you feel about the country? Okay, there are countries, they have their own systems of ruling. It may be pleasant for Americans or may not. The question is that who has given this right to this United States of America's government to put sanctions on the masses, millions and tens of millions of the people who are living here and there? That is one question, because I think there is a direct relationship between the pressures on the people and the sanctions that are being taken. Hussein, what's your stand on that?
Yeah, we are experiencing for years now. It's 40 years that we have sanctions on our government, but from I think it was the second administration of Obama that a new wave of heavy sanction and embargo on Iran has been started till now. So the plan, as they say, as also Mr. Ali also mentioned, that their documents and their reports are also approving this, that they have started a new plan of making civil wars in the countries, because they want to care to, if the sanctions are targeting people, poor people, or I don't know, moderate people in the countries, they're doing it, and they're doing it with all they have. And we are experiencing it in Iran. So
but you in Iran signed JCPOA. You signed a JCPOA. This was discussed by Elizabeth, that let us stop this dictatorship, let us come to the table and talk to them, and they will remove the sanctions. And you in Iran, you experienced a JCPOA, and you had a deal with Americans. What was the result? Tell me, Hussein.
That's the thing that Elizabeth said, that Obama wanted us to have an agreement or some, I don't know, to do some criteria about the, I don't know, liberty or something like that, freedom of speech or something like that, and they will do something, but they don't. That the experience of us has proved to every Iranian in the country that they won't do anything about it, because what they want is not our freedom. What they want is our sources. What they want is our human sources and natural sources, oils and everything we have. So they will do anything they can to capture these, especially against the governments that have a kind of, resistance against them. So that's our experience. But I'm just curious about the Cuban situation. I want to understand more. And let me give the mic to the Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth, it's up to you.
Well, first of all, right now there is a lot of Cubans actually even pushing for a military intervention, which I don't agree on, because we all understand that the United States goes into places and then they don't leave. And we all understand that the United States can be another way of having somebody else's boot on your neck. But having said that, the reason why I want my people to achieve their freedom is because I want us to fight for it. I want us to be able to say that we did it, that we created a democracy, that we created the country that we want to live in. I'd like to apologize if I got a little bit heated earlier to Sharabi, because I really don't understand how can someone say that Cuba, it is not a dictatorship, when dictatorship means it's a form of government in which one person or a small group possesses absolute power without effective constitutional limitations. And that is exactly what happens in Cuba. There is one party, there is one family that work like a mafia, so the Castros, that put this new president. Those elections, do you know that the elections in Cuba are with pencil? So they can delete and put whoever you want. So even if you vote for another person, they will erase that and put whoever they wanted. They're not electronic. So there is no way of knowing for real who you are electing. We do not elect the president or directly, which it also happens in the US. I understand the way it works is that you elect the people in your area and your MPs, like in Canada, whatever, and then they elect your party. But there is only one party. So how are you telling me that there is not a dictatorship? So you also mentioned that people don't get sanctioned for saying what they think. There are many artists. Me as an artist, if I say things, there are artists in Cuba that say things against the government because they don't like the government, and they go to jail. They disappear. They die. How can you justify that and say that that is not the behavior of a dictatorship? That's why I'm saying I know what I'm talking about. I grew up afraid of saying the truth. I grew up afraid of saying I don't like this government because I knew the consequences of that. So that is a dictatorship. And you cannot, my friend, tell me that is not.
Okay, thank you. Moises, I think you get English, but if you want to speak, you can speak in Spanish, and Elizabeth will translate it for us. Moises, the question is that a country may face so many domestic problems, but we are talking at an international platform here. Of course, there is no doubt about the need for reforms in all countries of the world who are not facing. Even in the United States of America is in need of reforms. Everyone is aware about that. That's not a question. The question is not about democracy. I believe in any sort of improvement in the condition, in the internal and domestic condition of the countries. But the question is that when this condition is being manipulated by the international forces, international superpowers, what should be the stand of people to protect their rights, as well as not being in the trap of the colonial forces also? What's your stand on that, Moises?
Sí, para empezar quisiera decir que las condiciones de bloqueo no han sido las mismas durante toda la historia de Cuba.
So I would like to say to start that the conditions of the embargo have not been the same throughout the whole history, that they have changed.
Al principio, en los 60, hubo un embargo que fue de armas, nada más. Luego en los 80 se radicalizó un poco, pero pasaron 2 décadas.
So at the beginning, in the 60s, there was an embargo. There was only about arms, about firearms. And then in the 80s, it became a little bit harder. The embargo became harder.
En el año 96, con Bill Clinton, el embargo sí se hizo bastante más radical, a pesar de que era un presidente demócrata.
In 1996, the embargo was very radical because of Clinton. He was the one that changed it, even though he was a Democratic party.
Pero durante el segundo gobierno de Barack Obama, esta situación empezó a cambiar.
But during the second government of Barack Obama, this situation started to change.
Empresas como Google o Facebook fueron a negociar un primer acercamiento en Cuba.
Companies like Google and Facebook went to Cuba to negotiate getting closer to Cuba and start businesses with Cuba.
Y no hay que olvidar que al principio Cuba tuvo el apoyo de la Unión Soviética.
And we cannot forget that at the beginning, Cuba had the support of the Soviet Union. That was in the 80s.
Pero que ahora, en la actualidad, tiene el apoyo económico, ha tenido el apoyo económico de Venezuela, Argentina, China, Rusia, México, Bolivia.
But now has the support, economic support of Venezuela, Russia, China, Argentina, and Bolivia.
A México.
And Mexico.
Y puede ser que en la actualidad la población conservadora cubana en la Florida.
And it can be that actually in this moment, the population, the conservative population in Florida,
esté utilizando las protestas dentro de Cuba para hacer presión al gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
Could be using the protests in Cuba, going on in Cuba, to pressure the United States government to take action.
Pero las protestas, en mi opinión, han surgido de manera espontánea dentro de Cuba.
But the protests, in my opinion, have been spontaneous from the people of Cuba at this minute.
Los conservadores cubanos en Florida son mayoritariamente republicanos y han tratado de que Estados Unidos históricamente haga algo en Cuba.
The conservatives in Florida have been trying for the longest time to pressure the United States to do something in Cuba for as long as we can remember.
Gracias, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Mr. Sharabi, I mean, your take on that. They talked about the condition.
I heard what they said. Please let me talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can raise questions, but look at the situation. There are two people who are in favor of opposition, and I'm the only one here speaking against the opposition.
At the end of the day, the logics matter. It's not a matter of one or two. Bring your logics.
Okay, but let's go to the discussion. Let's continue the discussion.
Yeah.
I always look at it this way. It's very good to get to some agreements in any discussions. If you can reach any agreement, I see the ground for reaching agreement in the discussions that we have right now. On what ground? Especially with Elizabeth, when she says that she's not in favor of embargo. This is very, very, very important. This can be a ground. This can be a ground of agreement. Right now, at the moment that we are speaking, there is a man which unfortunately very soon forget the names. He's a Cuban American. I'm sure Elizabeth may know the name. Living in Florida, he has left walking and traveling from going to the state to Washington to appeal to ask the government of the United. He's a Cuban American. He's not in favor of the government, but he's calling for the end of the embargo. Not only him, 80 members of the House of Representatives of the United States government just recently drafted a letter asking the President Biden to loosen up sanctions, to allow the Cuban Americans to send money to their families. These could be achievements if we can act on this. Then we can have another discussion tonight or some other night discussing about, is there a dictatorship or a democracy ruling in Cuba? That would be a very good discussion. Of course, my position on that is clear. As I said in the earlier intervention, I think Cuba is the symbol of freedom. Despite the extent of this information is that we presume that, okay, let's all accept that there's a dictatorship. Why shall we accept that? Why? We have to go to truth. I said that there are indications for freedom, for democracy. The most important criteria is, and the symbol of democracy is the people ruling themselves, is the people to rule for themselves. And in Cuba, this is the reality of the matter. There are grassroots elections in the communities, in every single community in Cuba, that they elect their representatives, and then it goes on, and they elect through this institution the power of the people, which is the Assembly of Cuba, and then through that they elect the president, which is, by the way, is not a Castro, is President.
Okay, Elizabeth, there is one question.
Not a member of the Castro family.
I'm sorry, I do have a question for him.
Okay, you go ahead with your question. Okay, you ask the question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, you are telling me that there is freedom of speech in Cuba, and their people are not going to jail because of the discontent?
Disrupt you. I'm sorry to disrupt you. We will discuss thoroughly enough, as much as time that you need, about dictatorship. But let's, as I said, if we can agree on something that
we already agree on that. We already agree.
We started the discussion with the question of what is the source of this unrest. And there were two main attitudes toward this question. Either it's because of the foreign embargoes on Cuba, or because of the...
No, because you cannot put it only one name. It is not black and white. It is many things. It is a complex.
Go ahead.
It is a complex of things. We have been suffering for way too long. So I want my friend to tell me if he's telling me that I'm lying because Cubans can say openly loud their discontent with the government and go out. There is a group of women called Las Damas de Blanco, which means the women in white. Those women are the mothers, wives, and sisters of political prisoners. They go out every Sunday with a flower in their hands. And I can send you videos of this, my friend Charabi. They go out every Sunday with pictures of their sons, pictures of their husbands, and flowers, and they get beaten to death. They get beaten and they get thrown in jail. What does that mean? Can you tell me a government that does this, what it is? Just answer me that.
Yes, I would be pleased to answer you if I'm allowed to.
Yes.
Okay, I assume that we got one point clear. This embargo is not correct, is not right. It should be lifted. Then the question is, what is the source of dissatisfaction? And I think nobody is disputing that when you deprive
Answer my question. Answer my question.
I will. Be sure about that. I will. But as I said, I'm inexperienced. I'm an experienced man in reaching agreements. To disagree is very easy, and we will get on disagreements. We will not talk about disagreement.
This is not about disagreement. Answer my question loud and clear and directly. No, answer it now.
Very clear. I do not call a lawyer for
Okay,
sure.
okay, you go
are
ahead, Mr.
not a
Sharabi,
lawyer.
and also
You
answer
are-
this question of the Elizabeth. You go ahead and answer the question as well.
Yes, yes, yes. First of all, let's be clear. I did not call Elizabeth a liar. She's not a liar. She's a decent woman expressing her views, which I disagree with the view. I disagree with the view. I didn't say she's a liar. I can
Yeah.
say something which is
Yeah,
not the
naturally.
truth.
We are discussing,
I-
and everyone has his
what
own,
she
his
said
or her own ideas. No issue.
That should be clear. Okay. All these things that women are beaten in the streets of Cuba is what is Elizabeth claiming without substantiating with facts. Very clear. I can claim right now in my country. The picture drawn from my country, Iran, is that there is a man in our country, everybody who disagrees with him is in jail. If you want to speak against him, you will be tortured. And I live in Iran, and I know the lies. And I know this, Elizabeth is not a liar. Be clear on that. But what she says is not truth. Because what is the source? She said a video. I can make you a video expressing something on truth. That's not a document. Let's
So
go through
you're telling me that these people, these are not officers of the police, and these are not women wearing white being beaten. Look, being beaten.
as I just
And they
told
were
you.
doing
I just told
nothing.
you. I just
Okay,
tell you.
man,
I just
I'm
tell you.
sorry. I'm sorry. I got
Tomorrow I
good,
will
that's
send
good.
you many videos, many, not one, tons of videos, which they themselves are
Yeah,
falsifications.
no. There's one.
Come
I
on.
think
You
something
show
is
me
mixing
something.
up. Something is mixing up.
Okay,
Mr.
let me tell you
Shahrabi.
something about the recent. No. Allow me to continue
Yes,
to get
yes.
clear.
Go
It
ahead.
is a discussion.
Go
They
ahead, go
say
ahead.
Elizabeth earlier said that on these confronting these demonstrations, the government is killing the people. Is that true? No. How these confrontations were built up. I'm not quoting the Cuban government. I'm quoting the Independent, a newspaper published in United Kingdom, not in favor of the Cuban government. It has published an article on minutes by minutes how this confrontation was built up. It says that 2 hours and a half after the start of the demonstration, when some people among the demonstrators throw up stones, very hard stones, that injured other people, those people in the streets, and the police, then after that, the police intervened and only arrested those who were using stones, who were throwing the stones at the police and at the guards. This is, please address this. You told me
Elizabeth,
to tell you if
you may give
is
us also
correct or
some
not. I
figures.
don't know if the video is correct or not, but I know something. Don't believe me? Okay. You don't believe the Cuban government? Okay. The Independent, which always is in favor of, Independent, but it has published an account about the demonstrations, that how it started, how it was confronted, and how on truth is the harsh confrontation of police with
Elizabeth,
the people.
I have a question. How many people
You can
from
laugh.
the
You can laugh. It's okay, but let's discuss it.
yeah, Elizabeth, how many people from the very beginning of the unrest have been killed in the streets of Cuba?
We don't know because the government cut off the internet. Why? Because the government doesn't want the truth to be out. But you say that there is not a dictatorship. So how are we going to know the truth? Now,
No. Sorry. Okay, you continue, but just I want to make it this question clear. So you do not have any clear statistics about the number of the killed people.
no, we just have
I
videos
do.
of people
I do.
saying my
I do.
family is disappearing. No, you cannot have that. You cannot have that. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you don't.
No, I don't. I'm just asking. I don't know. And actually, I don't know. I'm just asking if you have any. So Mr. Sharabi, do you have any
Pretty
idea
sure
on
you
that?
don't. No, one thing is, you know why? Because there is no internet. Now I will tell you my vision, because you're saying that could be a lie. So I will tell you about my conversation with my brother yesterday.
Yes.
Because he was part of one of the protests. So he went out on the first day And he was saying that people that are trained by the government are dressed as civilians because that's what they do all the time. They dress as civilians and then they hit people on the streets right there. They insert themselves within that march.
So
Within the protesters.
you mean there is no civilian in support of government in the streets? All
There
those
are
who are in
civilians.
favor of government, they are the I mean hidden agents of government.
Most of them are. Most of them are, for sure. I am not saying statistics because I cannot
Because
say
I
that.
observed some videos also protest, I mean a calm protest by those who were in favor of government as well. They were also in the streets.
It is true. There are people that go and in favor of the government, and you know why? Because the government promised them a little bit of extra food that month. The government promised them a little bit of extra money, and they work for the government and they do these things. So the government divides
So
people
they do
within
this
their
for the
own
money.
community.
So you mean
Yes.
anyone who is in favor of the government, he's actually an agent, because agent, and by
Yes.
agent I mean those who are getting
Yes.
money and doing something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or they tell you, wait, the other way is that they tell you that if you don't go and protest against this, the natural, the spontaneous people that go out, you will lose your job.
Okay, so
Or you would-
they'll be misused actually. So they'll be misused.
Yes, they threaten you. There are many ways of threatening people to do this and go against each other. We have been going against each other for so long. Like they place in every street of Cuba has one person that, or one organization called CDR, which belongs to the government, and they control from each street who is against the government or who talks things that are not. So, but
Moises,
let me say one thing.
Yeah, I just want to shift also to Moises because he has been calm for a long time. Yeah, go ahead. And Hossein, if you have any question, you come in and ask your question. Moises is also very, he's silent actually. We are not giving him time, unfortunately. Okay, Elizabeth, complete your words.
Sorry, I was mentioning that my brother that was in the protest was saying that people were being hidden and people were being the ones dressed as civilians, but the way they hit people, they look like trained people. It's not like anyone is just fighting like nothing. No, they're trained. So that's the strategy that they use in order to disperse the masses very fast.
Okay, Moises, we may, because I'm also afraid that because we are recording this interview, I'm afraid that we may lose. Everything is online, and there are the problems, technical problems as well. So I request Moises to listen his final words, and we are going to conclude after that.
Sí, el bloqueo de Estados Unidos no ha sido una política efectiva.
Elizabeth, please.
Sorry, the embargo hasn't been an effective politic or strategy.
Porque no ha ayudado efectivamente a que Cuba sea un país democrático.
Because it hasn't helped effectively to Cuba to be a democratic country.
Pero es lo que puede hacer la comunidad internacional fuera de una invasión.
But it is what the international community can do besides an invasion or an invasion.
Creo que nadie serio podría estar de acuerdo con una invasión.
I think no one serious could agree with an invasion or intervention.
Pero 60 años de dictadura en Cuba tampoco ha hecho nada por el pueblo de ese país.
But 60 years of dictatorship has also done nothing to the people of that country.
En la dictadura en Cuba y la falta de libertades económicas.
The dictatorship in Cuba and the lack of economic liberties
Es lo que ha producido un declive de producción de bienes año tras año.
It's what it has produced the dissension caída.
Moises, you are against military intervention. You mentioned it clearly. But what's your stand about embargo? Do you agree with embargo or not?
No, yo creo que el embargo tampoco ha sido efectivo, pero es lo único que puede hacer la comunidad internacional para apoyar al pueblo cubano.
No, I'm just saying I believe the embargo hasn't been effective either, but it is the only thing that the international community can do in order to bring awareness about this.
So you justify the, I mean, collective punishment of the people of Cuba? Because embargo is a punishment for all the people, for 11 million, not for the government.
No es el castigo al pueblo cubano, lo que defiendo es el castigo a la dictadura, a sus líderes.
I don't defend the punishment to everyone in Cuba, but I do defend the punishment to the Cuban government.
So how do you want to distinct that? How it is possible to distinct that? When you're putting embargo, it's embargo for all the people. I mean, it's like that, it's working like that.
Que yo puedo estar de acuerdo con que Cuba no compre armas en el exterior y el embargo en ese caso es necesario.
I agree that Cuba cannot buy arms in the outside of Cuba, and that's a very good part of the embargo.
Pero si
What about fuel?
Food, they can buy food. They can buy food.
Fuel,
the embargo does
fuel.
not include.
No, not true,
Fuel.
not true, not true.
combustible,
Not true.
combustible.
They
That's
buy
fuel.
from Venezuela.
No, I don't mean fuel,
Yes,
I mean fuel,
but,
fuel.
but limited.
Venezuela desde el año 2001 le ha dado petróleo a Cuba.
Since 2001, Venezuela has given oil to Cuba
A través de Petrocaribe.
from Petrocaribe, the company
Agreement.
is Petrocaribe,
The company, yeah.
the agreement.
Pero Cuba ha utilizado este petróleo para venderlo a precios de mercado internacional.
And Cuba has used this oil to sell it to other countries at international prices.
No ha usado este combustible para el beneficio del pueblo cubano.
It hasn't used this oil to the benefit of the Cuban people.
Y ya ese convenio tiene casi 2 décadas y el pueblo cubano todavía tiene la misma necesidad de combustible.
And this agreement, it has almost 2 decades, and the Cuban people still face hardship and don't have oil.
So they sold the oil and they got the money. So they use the money for their own, you mean, not the people?
Ellos han usado el dinero para mantenerse en el poder y no para el bien del pueblo.
They have been using the money to stay in power and not to the benefit of the people.
Okay. Thank you. It's done. If you do not have Elizabeth, Mr. Shahrabi Hussein, if you have your final comment, I will listen. Each of you 30 seconds. We want to conclude it.
30 seconds. I would like to Mr. Shahrabi to go to Cuba and really speak with the Cuban people that are going through some hardship there and live on a Cuban salary. And then we're going to have another conversation. I have to go now.
Thank you. Mr. Shahrabi.
I would really like to continue the conversation with Elizabeth. I think if this discussion continues, we will reach to very good agreements, because I see that she's against the embargo, which is the main point of our discussion. But just to let Elizabeth know, I have many very close friends, Cuban friends, like my sisters, my brothers have been in Cuba several times. I have lived with the Cuban, and I love all Cubans. I really believe that they are sincere people. Even if we disagree, we can respect each other's view, and if we continue discussion,
Indeed.
we can join hands and tell the United States government, lift sanctions on Cuba right now.
My last point, I think we can agree on this. I don't know about the Elizabeth or Moses, or they agree on this or not, but we need some corrections of behavior of the government of Cuba. But it doesn't mean that the government should be collapsed, because the collapse of a government, the giving up against the American policies, it means that the Cuban people, all of them, not even the ones who are against the government, or they are the ones who go for the government. All of the Cuban people will harm from that, and that's the history of the United States against the other countries, and the history of the world, of the civilization that we had in the last 300 years at least. So we can agree on this. We should resist against the American policies and American cruelty. But the Cuban government also, as I understood today, has to have some corrections in his way of governing the country. That's
Thank
my
you.
point.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are living in a region that just 1 week ago, United States of America left Afghanistan after 20 years of occupation. And they left Afghanistan without even informing the Afghan officials that they are taking out their troops. So that's the reality of Afghanistan. Meanwhile, we do hope for Cuba and the Cuban people to have a better condition, better situation, to fulfill all their desires and their wishes. Thank you all, respected and dear guests who accepted our invitation and joined this discussion. Bye-bye.